Ah, shit.
The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show. On this Wednesday, July 3rd, tomorrow's Independence Day, July 4th. I'll be doing a show tomorrow, 2 p.m. regular time, but we'll basically devote it to America, Americanism, Declaration of Independence, what America means, American renewal, how could we do that, what does it need? So we will do a 4th of July show, celebration, and so on. All right, that is tomorrow. Okay, let's jump in. I've got a bunch of news. There's nothing big, nothing dramatic happening. No new wars breaking out, and President Biden has not resigned yet. Rumors are swirling, lots and lots of rumors. He's meeting with governors. Rumors. I saw a bunch of headlines a couple of hours ago. He's considering it. He's considering resigning. We might hear later. Maybe not. Maybe. Who knows? Nobody knows. Oh, the other thing that's funny is now when he goes to meetings, since really the weekend, all his meetings, guess who goes with him? Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, who couldn't pass any kind of, FBI clearance, any kind of top secret clearance, anything like that, going to all of Biden's meetings with him, I guess I don't know what to do. What's the point? Hunter Biden, yeah, the drug addicted. Anyway, he's going to all the meetings with Daddy. Not sure exactly what's going on there, but I guess he needs somebody to hold his hand. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I'm torn. On the one hand, it seems like, no, he's not going to drop out. His family's. On the other hand, I mean, what other option is there? Everybody knows now. Everybody knows. The secret's out, although how they ever thought they'd keep the secret, who knows. But, so if he dropped out tomorrow or today, I would not be shocked. Not be shocked. All right. Talking about Biden and the debate more broadly, I thought this was pretty funny. So these are two Chinese comments on the debate, right? Everybody in the world watched this debate. Think about that, if that's not an embarrassment, embarrassing for any American. So here's one from Guangdong in southern China. Alzheimer's disease versus schizophrenia. I think that's pretty good. I think that captures it. All right, here's another one. This one's from Beijing. Trump's debate today taught me a lesson. If 10 or even 5% of your words in a public speech are obviously lies, then sorry, the media will not stop picking on your lies, fact-checking, all of that stuff. But if more than 90% of your words are lies, then the media will really give up because they really don't know which words to pick on. I think that's absolutely right. I mean, nobody fact-checks Trump anymore because there's no point. He doesn't say almost anything that's true. And fact-checking him and showing that he lied has exactly zero impact on the world out there. It doesn't make any difference. It just overwhelms. This is why, I mean, the whole basically everything he said during the debate was a series of lies, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Well, I mean, partially because the focus is on Biden, but partially because nobody cares. They've just accepted it. This is Donald Trump. He lies all the time, and that's okay. And the people who, the MAGA just go, yeah, he's fighting. That's good. He's fighting. Doesn't have to be the truth. As long as it works. As long as he's fighting. That's what counts, right? All right. I lied to you guys. Talk about lies. It turns out I lied to you. Yesterday. I think I said that was it with Candace. I was not going to bring her up again. But I tried. I really tried. But that commitment lasted less than a day. Here I am again with some Candace quotes because she's the gift that keeps on giving. And I cannot, right? It's too good. It's just too good. And what's good about it and scary about it is that I think this reflects a certain mood, a certain attitude that it has the potential to catch on the right. And it's just, what can you say? Anyway, so, I don't know, Constantine tweeted at Candace something about facts and reality and stuff like that, and about the video she did about, she's not a round earther or flat earther. She's just science. What did she say? Science is a cult, and then later on she said science is just a pagan religion. So, she says some stuff early on in this tweet, and then she goes, this is Candace Owen, me quoting, even though I promised I wouldn't, here's me quoting Candace Owen, quote, but as I said in my full monologue, which you won't share because it makes perfect sense. She's telling Constantine, because he only shared the clip about the nonsense. So, as I said in my full monologue, which you won't share because it makes perfect sense, if it isn't in the Bible, you will no longer see me defending it as a hard truth. Again, if it isn't in the Bible, you will no longer see me defending it as hard truth. I'd like to see her defending what's in the Bible as hard truth. That would be interesting, right? So Bible equals truth, nothing else. Nothing else. Everything else, who knows? Maybe there was this flat. Maybe it's round. Maybe it's elliptical. Maybe it's a square. A cube. Nobody knows. I don't know. She continues. As I said in my full monologue, quote, science has brought us poisonous vaccines, Monsanto, scientific explanations for transgenderism, birth control. Oh my God, science brought us birth control. Can you think of a greater evil to be done to the human race? Birth control. And every other science-based piece of poison. This is Candace. Quote, it's now a pagan cult as people trust doctors and chemists above their God-given discernment. She continues, and this is it. This is the culmination. This is it. My reality exists between the pages of Genesis to Revelations. Genesis to Revelations. I mean, God, can you imagine? This is Candace Owen. She continues, I don't vax my kids. I grow my own food. I know marriage is between a man and a woman, and there's no such thing as a transgendered individual. Plus, medicine is keeping people sick, and so on. So here she is, basically a medievalist, completely. Now, if you had any doubt before, now she's 100% medievalist. Medievalist. And then on top of this, and I'm not going to show you the video, I could show you, but there's another tweet from her where she shows a video of, oh God, I can't believe I forgot his name. You know, the manosphere guy, the guy who's in Romania, who's accused of rape in Romania. what is his name? She admires him. She's admired him for a long time. I guess he's the Muslim. So he would include Genesis to the end of the Quran. Andrew Tate. Anyway, she shows a video of Andrew Tate sitting bare-chested, of course, no shirt on, outside in Romania, spouting about the fact that he no longer believes in data. Data is for suckers. Data is for suckers. All you need is street smarts. All you need is just to live out there. You don't need data. Data is horrible. It's for suckers. Now, he uses climate change as his example for it, but his analysis is his analysis is stupid about ice and water. He's just an idiot. But he says when the ice melts in his glass, the water doesn't overflow, right? Which is true, all right. But anyway, put that aside. He's sitting out there. He doesn't believe in data. He doesn't believe in, it's just his experience. He's got all the experience he needs. He never looks at data, no charts, no numbers, no anything. Data is for suckers. What you need, it's for really, 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 really smart people. Don't need data to know what is true and what is not. So there you have it. What basically the modern right is doing is giving up on reality, which is necessitates, their religion necessitates that. So they're just giving up on reality. To hell with reality. We don't need reality. And it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see if Candace Owens' viewership increases or decreases as a consequence of her becoming explicitly nuts, literally crazy. And it'll be interesting to see how many people on the right denounce her, how many people over the right, on the modern right, on the far right, on the alt-right, whatever you want to call it, move away from her, or how much of the culture moves towards her, moves in support of her. I mean, it's a cultural phenomena. It's a cultural phenomena of the alt-right. And it is nuts. These people are nuts. And they are heroes to much of the right. Heroes to them. All right, another funny story, and then we'll get to some serious stuff. This is one more funny story. All right, so outside, you might have seen this. This went viral, this photo of a street sign right outside of a Louis Vuitton store in San Francisco. The sign said, it looks very official, looks like a government sign that is being posted there by some state authority that says, notice, stolen goods must remain under $950. Which is perfect, right? Notice, stolen goods must remain under $950. And a sign, an official sign right after Louis Vuitton. So if you smash into Louis Vuitton, it's going to be hard to find anything under $950. I mean, if you're going to shoplift, don't shoplift at Louis Vuitton. And all of this is a consequence of the fact that there is, the California voters approved in 2014, so 10 years ago, a Proposition 47. And under Proposition 47, retail theft under $950 is prosecuted only as a misdemeanor. And a lot of people are saying that this has contributed to the surge in smash and grab and flash mob style robberies in the Golden State in recent years, although I'm skeptical of that because I wonder how many of those smash and grab in jewelry stores and other places did the thieves stop for a moment and say, no, this will probably take me over $1,000. I better put it back. I doubt that. I think the smash and grab and the shoplifting have other sources. But certainly this helps. This can't hurt. This helps the tolerance for shoplifting. So anyway, so this sign is trying to make fun of that phenomena. It turns out it's not a government sign, in spite of the fact that it looks very official. Originally, some people thought maybe it was added to a photo with AI, but no, people have confirmed they've actually seen it in real life. The sign has been taken off. I guess a San Francisco Department of Public Works spokesman said that they did not put up the sign, even though it looks official. And when a city worker was sent on Sunday to check it out, it was already gone. So if there was a sign, it was there for a little bit. It's already gone. There was another, I guess, photo of the same sign outside a Dior store nearby, which I guess last year fell victim, last fall, fell victim to smash and grab. And that was just under $950 in the smash and grab. Last fall, they took $150,000 worth of items from the store. Stole, not took, stole. So I don't think it's the 2014 Proposition 47. I think it's some other phenomena of disrespect for property rights and lack of enforcement of the law that is really driving this 100%. There is a proposition on the ballot in November that will reverse or do away with some of Proposition 47's provisions, get rid of those, and so on. All right. Let's see. What the hell happened there? All right. What do we want to do first? Where did that story go? I had that story. Wait a second. Something's disappeared on me. Sorry, my articles are like all over the place. All right. Let's do this. All right, let's do, I guess, Taylor Swift. We'll go with Taylor Swift first, and then we'll do German cars. I must have closed this window before. All right. So we've talked about Taylor Swift in the past, and she is the favorite punching bag of some people. I have to be careful because Scott is on the chat catching me at every word, right? When you say the right, do you mean everybody on the right? When you say alt-right, who do you mean exactly? Give me names. Give me statistics. How many people hold this? Anyway, Taylor Swift, a punching bag by some, not to be specified, just some people on the right. There's an article about her today. In Newsweek, that is questioning. This is the title. Taylor Swift is not, I guess it's not questioning, it's stating Taylor Swift is not a good role model. Not a good role model. Some people on the right claim. That's not in the title, that's what I'm saying, because the author is obviously from the right. God, this article will not stand still. It's like it's got moving parts to it. Let's see if I can get this right. All right, there we go. At 34, I'm reading from the article. Swift remains unmarried and childless. This is after he's gone over all her achievements and successes and how, so on. She remains unmarried and childless. A fact that some might argue is irrelevant to status as a role model, but I suggest is crucial to consider what kind of example this sets for young girls. A role model, by definition, is someone worthy of imitation. While Swift's musical talent and business acumen are certainly admirable, even laudable, we must ask if her personal life choices are ones we want our sisters and daughters to emulate. This might sound like pearl-clutching preaching, But it's a concern rooted in sound reasoning, he declares about himself. That's good to know that he's a sound reasoner. So she's not married. She's 34. She has no kids. By definition, some on the right would tell us that she cannot be a role model, because women, what are they supposed to do? Women out there, you're supposed to be married as soon as possible, really. Ideally, I think some, maybe those who are harking back to 1220, would like to see you married at maybe 14, 16, certainly 18, so you can have as many kids as possible. He continues, Swift's highly publicized romantic life has been a source of prime tabloid fodder for years. She's dated numerous high-profile men, at least a dozen, including singers Harry Styles and Joe Jonas, the actor Jack Gyllenhaal, and recently American football player Travis Kelce. This revolving door of relationship may reflect the normal dating experience of many young women in today's world, but it also raises questions about stability, commitment, and even love itself. Should we encourage young girls to see the Swift standard as the norm, something to aspire to? Or should we be promoting something a little more, shall we say, wholesome? Would any loving parent reading this want their daughter to date 12 different men in the span of just a few years? This is not an attack on Swift. It's a valid question that is worth asking. Really. Can I chime in here as a parent? I don't have a daughter, but I'll just say I have no problem with my daughter dating 12 different men. I'd actually like her to date a number of different men before she got married, so she knew what was available and what was out there, and who she was compatible with, unless she fell in love with somebody very quickly and right off the bat, which would be great as well, but dating for a while, dating different men, and then discovering who you love, isn't that better? Isn't that better? I mean, I know I'm not a conservative, so this is a very conservative attitude. Now, not some conservatives, not all conservatives, although my guess is all conservatives. What's the problem? What's the problem? She's not married. She doesn't have kids. Is there a date by which we want them to marry? I mean, is kids a requirement now of being a role model? You have to have kids. All women have to have kids. I mean, it's an option, a good one. I had kids. God. Now we get maybe to the crux of it. The superstar's vocal criticisms of the patriarchy adds another layer of complexity. Swift's recent rallying cry against patriarchal structures stands in stark contrast to her personal dating choices. The singer often dates strong, influential men, celebrities who embody significant social and economic power. God, this is so dishonest. Isn't it true, though, that Taylor Swift is richer than any of these men? Isn't it true that she is as successful as any of these men? Isn't the whole idea of the patriarchy a strong man and a weak woman, a strong man and a woman who is not independently wealthy, is not independently career-oriented? I mean, are we accusing Taylor Swift of being part of the patriarchy because she dates strong men, even though she's this incredibly successful, rich, just strong woman? I mean, the level of argumentation, the attitude is so absurd. He says this can appear hypocritical, hypocrisy, fundamentally undermines the ability to be a good role model because it involves a contradiction. But there is no contradiction here between one's actions and the principles and values to publicly advocate. Swift neither doesn't realize this nor doesn't care. Neither of the two is a good look. Ah, God. So, what do we do? What's our valuation of Taylor Swift? I mean, she might, quote, influence young women to adopt a similar perspective in their own relationships, be they romantic or otherwise. I mean, yeah, Swift is not a victim. She's not, and she doesn't portray that. Isn't that a good thing? Swift's numerous high-profile relationships, while private matters are constantly in the public eye, new romance becomes media-frenzied. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Is this guy obsessed about the amount of sex that Swift is having? Is that it? He, quote, what young girls truly need, perhaps without recognizing it, are role models who provide both authenticity and actual depth, rather than artificial narratives and superficial glamour. I wonder what he has in mind. Maybe one of those wives in one of those 1950s TV shows that have, like Walsh's wife, dinner is always waiting for them when they come home from work, and it's yes, sir. Whatever the man wants, he is supported. They raise the children well. And they don't, you know, maybe they were virgins on the wedding night. And that, June Cleaver is the model of today's, some people, only some people on the right. It's, wow. I mean, yes, this is the conservatism. This is the medievalist mentality that I oppose, that I think is destructive to this country, that I think is poisoning what's left of the Republican Party, and that I think is unbelievably offensive and disgusting and awful, and that I am here to point out and reveal and talk about, and everything else. Jennifer says she wore high heels in the kitchen. Well, of course she did. She's supposed to be sexy and provide sex on demand, and she's supposed to be all that as well. She's, you know, it's like a mother and a wife as a cleaner, you know, a cook and sexual object. I mean, doesn't everybody wear high heels in the kitchen? I mean, what else would you wear? Adam says, trad wife is the term. Trad wife. Don't you all want trad wives? My wife would kill me. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Richard said, in vacuumed wearing pearls. Anyway, there you have it. More of the tradcons and their influence in the world out there, which is quite immense, non-trivial, and sad. All right, let's do some economics, a few economic stories. I think we don't need these. Oh, do I have that one? All right. Yeah, I do. Okay. Whoops. All right, one second. Today I'm a little disheveled. It's probably why I quoted Candace. All right. Germany. So the EU is deep into negotiations with China about the tariffs it wants to impose on Chinese electric vehicles. Just like Biden just imposed 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, the EU wants to do the same, primarily in an effort to protect its auto industry. I mean, auto industry is a massive employer in the EU. Think about German auto companies, BMW, Mercedes, Audi. Think about Fiat in Italy. Think about Renault and Peugeot, although I think that's one company these days, in France. Or think about Volvo in Sweden. Volvo in Sweden. Volvo might be in Sweden, but Volvo is owned by the Chinese already. Anyway, they're very worried about Chinese electric cars, as they should be, because the Chinese are going to dominate electric cars. They already are dominating electric cars, and therefore they want to impose tariffs. But they're negotiating with the Chinese, trying to get the Chinese to change their behavior in order to get lower tariffs or whatever. Anyway, interestingly, the German auto companies are encouraging the EU not to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Not to do it. Imagine the American auto companies doing that. It wouldn't happen. The American auto companies seem to be more crony than the German auto companies. German auto companies are worried because they export cars to China. They export a lot of cars to China. BMW CEO has said that tariffs would harm global companies, slow decarbonization, because it would limit the supply of EVs to Europe, and it would do nothing to strengthen European manufacturing competitiveness. That's pretty cool that he realizes that tariffs hurt competitiveness. You become less competitive when you try to protect yourself by using tariffs. So the value, it turns out, of passenger car exports from Germany to China last year was more than 3 times the value of imports from China. Now, that would change as EV becomes to dominate. But still, that's a lot of exports from Germany to China that the Germans don't want to lose. The value of exports of components is 4 times as much from Germany to China than from China to Germany. Germany provides a lot of the components that are used in cars made in China. So what German car manufacturers realize is that if the EU imposes tariffs on the Chinese governments will impose tariffs on EU auto companies and component companies, and the loser here will be the EU. Will politicians listen? Probably not. It really does look like the EU is going to have tariffs. It is super afraid of BYD and other Chinese electric car manufacturers. It doesn't look like that. Again, the European car manufacturers are afraid, but it certainly does look like the governments are afraid. And as a consequence, it looks like those tariffs will go into place. China will impose tariffs on the EU. All of our standard of living, quality of life will decline. Everybody will be worse. Nobody will be better. But somehow, politically, this somehow comes out better. It's just so stupid. It's just so dumb. But then all tariffs are dumb. And this is just one more example of the dumbness of tariffs. All right. Talk about dumb policy. And this one is an unexpected location for dumb policy. This is Taiwan. It turns out that Taiwan, the current Taiwanese president and the one that's about to replace her, are very anti-nuclear. which is super surprising. The political party that they represent, the DPP, I guess, has a long history going back to the 1980s of being anti-nuclear. And the political parties who are today in the opposition are pro-nuclear. On other issues, the current government is much better than the opposition. On this issue, the opposition is much better than the current government. The current government actually wants, they've stopped work on a fourth nuclear power plant. And that work was actually stopped after the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. And they are actually considering shutting down nuclear power plants in Taiwan. Now, the impact of shutting down nuclear power plants in Taiwan would actually make Taiwan much more reliant on LNG. LNG that has to be brought in probably from the Middle East by ship. Guess who controls the sea lanes going into Taiwan? Well, China does. So right now, you could argue Taiwan is fairly energy independent because of nuclear. It has nuclear power plants, and it can sit on those nuclear power plants, and it is fairly energy independent. And as a consequence of being of that, they still need gasoline for the cars and stuff like that. But if they move to electric cars, then the nuclear power plants will be surprised. They still have to bring in some uranium, probably from Russia, I guess. But they don't have to, on a daily basis, bring in natural gas that is just burned off, and then more natural gas is necessary to bring in. Ships that are large, cumbersome, and have to go through potentially Chinese-controlled waterways. It's just from every perspective. This is insane. Now, add to that the fact that the Taiwanese economy uses a lot of electricity because it's still, of all the advanced economies in the world out there, it's all because of all the advanced economies out there, Taiwan has the most of its economy tied up in manufacturing. 16% of its energy still comes from nuclear, but that's what they want to get rid of. But they are planning to expand their manufacturing. Now take TSMC. We often talk about TSMC, the largest, most significant, most advanced chip manufacturing company in the world. TSMC sucks up 6.4% of all the total power output in a year. Industry overall takes 56% of all Taiwan's power supply. They need power in order to keep their economy going. And TSMC is not going to shrink. It's not going away. They want to grow it. They want to expand it. They want to build new industries. So it's just insane to shut down nuclear power given, well, in any case, but given this context. It's just nutty. Just nutty. And go to rely on LNG, which is geopolitically so devastating, so devastating. Okay, talking about China. The Biden administration has placed limits on the kind of chips that can be sold to China. We don't want them to have access to the Nvidia AI chips. So we have placed kind of an embargo on the sale of advanced chips to the Chinese. I'm curious, just curious, how well you think that's working. Like, we have an embargo on the importation of drugs, and particularly fentanyl, into the United States. How well does that work? Why does anybody? Oh God, I'm mispronouncing it again. Nvidia, Nvidia, not Nvidia. Nvidia. God. Why can't the English language be more phonic? Or why does it appear that when I learned to read, I didn't learn the phonic through phonics? I think I learned through Site C method. Anyway, I can't remember. Embargoes don't work, guys. If there's demand, if there's money in it, goods will flow. Goods will flow. And in this case, goods are flowing. Nvidia chips coming into China. People buy them here. They put them in suitcases. They travel overseas. There are whole import-export operators out there, 70 distributors, the Wall Street Journal found, advertising online that they have Nvidia restricted chips and they can get them anywhere. You can buy them. Some of them are even selling whole servers that include Nvidia chips inside. 8 of them actually costing $300,000. You can buy one of those as well. You can make prostitution illegal, but there will be prostitutes. Even in totalitarian regimes like communist, USSR and communist China and, in Russia today, certainly, and probably Iran. I bet you there are prostitutes in Iran. You can make drugs illegal, and it won't stop them from flowing in. And if you make chips illegal to export to China, it will not stop them. Now, that creates certain challenges, national security challenges, and how do we deal with China and how do we deal with it from a national security perspective, and do we want our companies selling them to China? But God, Scott is such an idiot. Sorry. Scott says, why even outlaw shoplifting? As if there's a parallel here. As if there's a parallel. Right? One is a rights violating action. The others are just supply and demand for goods. No rights are being violated. But he can't think. So he equivocates. That's what happens when you can't think. Everything looks the same. Founding fathers, Donald Trump, all look the same. Looks the same. So yeah, chips are flowing into China. It's a real question what you do in terms of national security and how you protect these kind of assets from falling into an enemy's hands. Maybe what you do is the Chinese method. The Chinese method is, no, sell them your best technology. Make it very explicit that you sell it to them, but plant little bugs in them, right? So you know exactly which chips are going to China because it's completely open. And now you put little back holes in it. You put little, malware in it. You put something in it that allows you to control what is done with them, right? So anyway, I don't think the ban on these chips is going to stop the Chinese from moving forward with AI. My guess is the Chinese government is smuggling in chips, Nvidia chips, all the time. They are dedicating them primarily to servers and they're building the nuclear power plants, they're building the coal-fired plants, they're building the energy required for AI that we are not, that we are struggling with, and they will do what they can to advance in AI. I think the bigger restriction on AI advancing under the Chinese is more an issue of to what extent are scientists allowed to think out of the box. Dell and Supermicro are also, they also have restrictions on them. And, all these companies saying, no, we abide by the export restrictions. But no restrictions are going to stand up to the kind of profit margins that you're going to get by selling these chips to the Chinese government at a profit. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is to not wanting the Chinese to get a hand of these, but it doesn't seem like this solution, this particular solution, and the way it's enforced are actually the ways in which we're going to be successful in limiting China's ability to compete with us on some of these areas. I think much of the lack of competition is going to boil down to just their inability because they're not a free country. All right. I just wanted, I think we'll skip that, and we'll get to that. All right. I think this falls under good news. I think the story falls under good news, and that is, do you know you can buy a 3-carat diamond, with VVS2 clarity, which is really good, an ideal cut, a nice cut, F color, which is quite good. You can get a diamond like that, 3.1 carats, real diamonds. I'm not talking about glass. I'm not talking about fake diamonds. I'm talking about a real diamond. 3 carats. I don't know how many of you have been in the market, but I'm going to guess that 10 years ago, a 3-carat diamond with an ideal cut VVS2 F color would have cost, I don't know, $50,000. I know how much I paid for, I think, a 2-carat diamond. So maybe 50 is an exaggeration. Maybe, I don't know. Somewhere in that range, $30,000 to $50,000. I don't know enough about the cut and the clarity. Although I should, because I have in-laws in the business, But right now, you can buy a 3.1 carat F color online for $1,411. $1,400 for a 3-carat diamond. Now, it's artificially grown in a lab, but it's a diamond. It's not grown from some other material. It's grown from carbon, so it's a real diamond. It has every molecular characteristic of a diamond. And in some ways, it's going to be less flawed because it's designed. It will do everything a diamond will do because it is a diamond. You cannot, from a physics perspective, you cannot differentiate between these lab-grown diamonds and a actual diamond, that is cut out of a mine. So if you're about to get engaged and you want to buy a diamond, God, you could really impress. A 3-carat. And again, this is the way in which technology has caused prices to plummet. And our standard of living, quality of life has gone up. Now, where is this measurable? Is anybody, including in the inflation numbers or in the standard of living numbers and the quality of life numbers, is anybody including in that the price of a diamond? By the way, mined diamonds, their prices have plummeted as well. Not to this level, but they've come down as well. And the reason they've come down as well is because this is perfect competition. This is a competitor to them. And they have to compete. They can't sell at $50,000 when this is $1,400. So generally, right now, there's probably never been a better time to buy diamonds, except probably in 5 years, which will be even a better time to buy diamonds, because the prices on these things will keep coming down and the prices of the mined diamonds will keep coming down. Although what might happen is the mines will shut down because they can't make enough of a profit to run them. And then not real, but mine diamonds will become much rarer and their price will go up. And some snobs will buy the mine diamonds and all of us will buy these beautiful, gorgeous, lab-grown diamonds that, again, are just as good. And you can buy them round and oval and emerald. You can buy all kinds of stuff. This is pretty amazing. Certified lab-grown diamonds. You want a website? I'm getting no. I should get I wouldn't mind a percentage of their sales. Ritani. Ritani.com. Ritani. All right, that's the good news. I don't have much more in terms of good news. Let's see. All right, let's do this. So I came across this article written by a guy named Janan Ganesh that really asks, what's up with business people? Why is it so difficult to them to understand for them to understand kind of how crazy the world is becoming, fanatical, both on the left and on the right. They don't get, and they didn't get the woke. They were fooled into it. They were completely bought into it. They were captured by it. And now they don't understand Trump. They don't understand the right. They don't understand the new right. They don't understand the alt-right. What is going on? I thought this was pretty good. First of all, he says there's such a thing as sincere wrongness. He says, first, business people struggle to understand fanaticism. In commercial life, all actors are negotiable, even if their price is high. You might pass decades in the private sector without encountering somebody who has total commitment to an abstract doctrine, and he puts in parentheses socialism, or to an individual, parentheses Trump, or to a cause, parenthesis Russian imperialism. This blind spot for zeal is why corporations were such sitting ducks for woke. Why oligarchs a generation ago thought Vladimir Putin was their pliable instrument. I think this is so true. I think most businessmen are used to dealing with others on the trader principle. Value for value, and where the value is real, tangible, observable. They're generally used to dealing with people who are rational, or at least semi-rational, and where you can understand the motivation, because of the principles behind the trader principle. You understand what's driving them, why they want to participate in this particular trade. That is not the mentality. That's the mentality of life. That's the mentality of business. That's the mentality of trader. But ideology doesn't work that way. Fanaticism doesn't work that way. Abstract, total commitment to irrational ideas doesn't work that way. So it's hard for them to imagine evil ulterior motive to the DEI thing when, as I told you the other day, a McKinsey study comes out and says, no, it adds value to you. And they go, oh, cool, let's do it. They don't get that something devious and evil and horrific is here. And when they buy into it, they're buying into not just the destruction of value, but destruction of the soul of a business. They're supporting Trump right now because pragmatically it seems like, he's going to be good for the economy, maybe better than Biden, maybe. But they don't get the kind of blind obedience so many people like Scott have towards this, worship of an individual and the ramification of such a thing. Because it's not how we do business. Business is about facts, reality. And the same, they have this, they pick up lines about Russia and stuff, and they're apologists for Putin for very, very similar reasons, right? So I thought that was an interesting observation. True. It's very difficult for businessmen to come to terms with abstract ideologies, particularly ones that are inherently irrational, that are fundamentally irrational, because they function in such a different world. All right, Joe, we're coming up to the end of the first hour. I still got some news stories. I'll just remind you that we have a goal for every hour, which is $250, which is kind of the cost of time, if you will, of effort of putting these shows together. This is a completely 100% listener-supported show. We have some sponsors, but they don't provide. I think we're going to get a new sponsor soon, but they only provide a fraction. Almost all of it is provided by you guys, and there's very else that I do these days other than these shows. Hard enough to keep up with all this with it. So the support you provide me here on the Super Chat is crucial to keeping the show going. So thank you to all of you who do that. But we're short today. Yesterday was great. So today I guess everybody falls off because yesterday was good. But I just encourage you to show support. Again, you can do it in any amount of money. It all helps. It ultimately, over a 2-hour, 3-hour show, it all adds up. So please consider asking a question or putting in a sticker. 000 Annex 000 just gave $100. He says, posting to debit my freeloading account. Thank you. Anonymous, we'll call you that. And I appreciate the support. Thank you. Oh, David just came in with 100,000 Costa Rican something others. I wish 100,000 Costa Rican whatever was worth it. It's a good amount, right? It's an amount that gets us over the goal for the first hour by a long shot. Thank you. It's almost $200. I wish it was closer to 100,000. That would be sweet. All right, we'll get to David's question in a little bit. I will be talking about, at the end of the show today, or at the end of the segment of the show, the news segment of the show, I will be talking about Scent of a Woman, the movie. So this will be one of the movie reviews that I owe you. I can't remember who submitted the request for Scent of a Woman, but we will be talking about that. I don't know how many of you have watched the movie, hopefully a number of you. Here they come. David started off, and 000 whatever started off, and now Wes is coming with a $100 sticker. Thank you, Wes, and David did $200. So we're rock and rolling here. This is great. Thank you, guys. So Scent of the Woman is coming, and what I'm going to try to do is every day at the end of the show, do a few songs, do a movie, until I catch up. I've got a lot to catch up. I've got a painting as well. So I've got the list. It is all coming, and we will. And I will get through them, and then we can open it up to new requests for reviews once that gets done. But today we'll talk about Scent of a Woman, and we'll go from there. All right, quickly, a few additional news items. The Houthis. We talk about the Houthis a lot on this show because I just find the Houthis to be one of the biggest disgraces to Western civilization and to the West ever. The idea of this barbaric tribe blocking much of the world's trade, or at least making the world's trade significantly more expensive for all of us, is just shocking to me that the United States cannot stop this. Anyway, it turned out that June 2024 was the worst month ever, largest number of attacks on commercial ships. And what's interesting about that is not only that it's the month with the largest number of attacks, but it didn't make the news. It barely was mentioned by the mainstream media. Nobody seems to care. They just, okay, well, now we're getting attacks. It reminds me of kind of the second Intifada. Okay, well, a bus blew up today. Maybe another bus will blow up tomorrow. Just a nonchalant attitude towards violence, towards violation of rights, towards the weakness of the West in the face of barbarism, right? So, it's the worst month of 2024. There's no reason to think it's going to get better. I do like saying Houthis, but I would like it even more if the Houthis were just blown out of existence. Blown out of existence. I think that's a term. A few of those 2,000-pound bombs that the United States is refusing to send to Israel, maybe they could be used against the Houthis. I think a few of those bombs could wipe out much of what the Houthis have to offer. A miracle has happened. Germany and Poland are increasing defense cooperation. Defense cooperation. They both fear Russia. They both are worried about the Russians. And as a consequence, they are, pooling resources in order to try to protect Eastern Europe against Russia, it's the only enemy out there. These two countries are going to maybe have the largest militaries in Europe, other than Russia. Poland has beefed up its spending on weapons and on the military dramatically recently, and Germany is on the verge of increasing, has already increased, will continue to increase. German Chancellor said the security of Poland is also the security of Germany. That's quite a thing. We will pool our capacities and we will coordinate more. We will jointly take responsibility for the protection of NATO's eastern flank. What is interesting here, too, is the fact that I think both Poland and Germany are preparing for a Donald Trump presidency, where the United States will take a back seat, I think, to Europe in terms of managing NATO and prioritizing NATO and funding NATO. So I think you're going to see the United States take a back seat if it's not even if, when Trump is elected, and Europeans know they're going to have to step up if they want to have any say. They're also very worried about Trump's intentions and ability to sell Europe out to Russia. That is to force Ukraine into a massive compromise with Russia, which will only embolden Russia and set up for more violence in Europe. Let's see. Oh, this is one you should be running for the hills for. This is scary, guys. Very, very, very scary stuff. I'm sure many of you will agree with me. The U.S. government is going to pay Moderna. Moderna? I mean, where's the garlic and the thing? This is like almost as evil as Monsanto. Moderna, the U.S. government is going to pay Moderna $176 million to develop an mRNA vaccine against a pandemic of influenza. The award was given as potentially to combat the H5N1, which is the flu virus that continues to spread within cattle in the United States. So now I'm not for the government spending money on vaccines or anything else, really. Very little else that is not related to protecting individual rights. But I don't know. I mean, doesn't it scare you that we're going to have more vaccines from mRNA? Isn't mRNA killing everybody? I thought mRNA is killing everybody. And yet we're investing more in mRNA, even though it's killing everybody? And who's going to actually take the new mRNA vaccines if the first one was killing everybody? I guess the people who weren't vaccinated. Pretty pathetic. Moderna noted it's begun phase 1 and 2 trials of a pandemic influenza virus. It started last year. So before the government ever gave them any money, and it's both targeting the H5 and the H7 varieties of bird flu viruses. I mean, it's great that a company like Moderna is starting to develop potential vaccines even before this virus has turned into something that is problematic for human beings. So that when it does, if it does, turn into something that is harmful for human beings, then they can quickly turn on the spigot and get the vaccine out there for us. So it just shows how the market works effectively. The fact that Moderna has been doing this for a while. All right, we did that. All right, I'm just cleaning up my sheet here with all my stories. I think we did that and we did that. All right, we're good. All right, I think this is we got 2 stories left. So tomorrow's a big day. I don't know if you know this, but tomorrow is a big day. Not only is tomorrow the 4th of July, but tomorrow is the date that the Conservative Party chose for an election in the UK. So tomorrow is election day in the UK and 4th of July in the United States. It is symbolically maybe a day in which the Conservative Party, the party most affiliated, I guess, in the UK with America, if you will, is going to be wiped out. Wiped out. I mean, right now, it looks like Labour is going to win 484 seats out of 650, which will make it the biggest win Labour has ever had. Way bigger win than Tony Blair's landslide victory in 1997, where he only won 418. Here we're talking about 484. The Conservatives, who've been in power for the last 14 years, are predicted to win only 64 seats. That's down from over 400. 64 out of 400. They're going to lose 75% of the seats that they hold. Imagine if in the United States, Republicans were going to go, I mean, it's also around 400, and, it's 650. So imagine if they were going to go to, 50 seats in the House of Representatives. That's what this means. I mean, it's bigger because this also determines the executive branch. So parliamentary elections in the UK are much bigger than congressional elections in the US. This would be the fewest seats that the Conservatives will have in the British Parliament since the Conservative Party was founded in 1834. 1834. The Reform Party is projected to win 7 seats. Now, we will see how it pans out, right? Because this is just speculation at this point. But it is going to be interesting tomorrow. I don't think I'll have any results when we do our show tomorrow, 4th of July show tomorrow. If not, we'll definitely be talking about this on Friday. We'll get the actual results. I have no idea what Macron was thinking in setting the election for now, because it appears that he is going to be wiped out in the election. I have no idea why Sunak decided to have the elections now and not waited for the fall in the hope of something turning around, something getting a little bit better. It's just mind-boggling how devastating this is going to be. And this has ramifications for massive ramifications within England. Now, I'm going to show you a graph. Maybe this has something to do with it. Look at this graph. This is a graph of the British public's opinion of Brexit. The poll question is, in hindsight, do you think Britain was right or wrong to vote to leave the EU? Now, right after the vote, when it was going to, the Brits supported this. As the ramification of what it actually meant to leave the EU started to be felt, started to be understood, support for the Brexit has declined. And then, once a deal actually got cut with the EU, and now we actually see where this leaves Great Britain. You see the support for Brexit just collapsing, not going down, collapsing. I mean, look at that. It's really, really, really amazing. And this will be interesting. Will Labour try to reverse Brexit? They'll have the seats. They could call for another referendum. They could renegotiate with the European Union. They could, I don't think they could unilateral without a referendum. I don't think they would unilaterally, without a referendum, actually rejoin the EU. But I guess they could. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how the law is. But look at that. It would be popular. It would be super popular. Now, Matthew says he thinks the poll is bollocks. I don't. I mean, the economy in the UK sucks. The cab drivers I take in the UK have shifted. I'm much more likely to be anti-Brexit than they used to be. A lot of people I know who are pro-Brexit are no longer pro-Brexit. I think this is probably pretty accurate about, and I've seen lots of polls, and I've seen polls with different questions that are measuring the same basic idea, and they all have the same conclusion. The British public is turned dramatically against Brexit, and if you actually put it up for a vote right now, Brexit would lose in a landslide. I believe you've lived there for 50 years. I'm just saying, as an outsider, looking in and looking, I know you're not supposed to these days, looking at the actual data, the data suggests that the British public have become anti-Brexit. Not just this question. Not just this question. And justifiably so. They should be anti-Brexit. Because Brexit has provided the Brits with all, with only downsides, no upside. There's no upside to Brexit. They've given up on the upside. They had an upside. They gave it up. Brexit has made it, more difficult to do business, more difficult to trade. Brexit has made it more difficult to travel. Brexit has made it just a headache. It hasn't reduced immigration one iota. It just changed the mix of immigrants. It's actually increased immigration. But it hasn't changed the mix. And it's only had negative consequences. So why would you want it? Why would you want something that's only had negative consequences? Now, we can all say, yes, but if the British government had basically massively deregulated and done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then things would be different. But they didn't, and they won't, and they can't. That's the reality. I said when Brexit was passed, people asked me, are you for Brexit? I said, I'm for Brexit if they do the right thing with it. I'm anti-Brexit if they don't. And what did they do? They did the wrong thing with it. They didn't do the right thing with it. They did the wrong thing with it. Looking back, Brexit was a mistake. The reality is the UK economy would be better off today. And I believe UK culture would be better off today if they hadn't left the EU. Because the reality is that the statists within the UK are just as bad as the statists outside the UK. Sadly. All right. What do we want to do now? Oh, yeah, I promised to talk about the California budget. Let's talk about the California budget. We'll talk about this other story another time. So California has a balanced budget amendment. Its constitution requires the government to balance its budget every year. And so every year they go through this exercise where they look at things, and if there's projected to be a shortfall, they have to figure it out. They either have to cut spending, or do accounting gimmickry, or raise taxes. But they have to ultimately balance a budget. Now, a few years ago, when was it? 2 years ago? Yeah, in May 2022, given post-pandemic, the market went through the roof. You remember that? Market went through the roof. California had an unprecedented $98 billion budget surplus. Budget surplus. California was doing unbelievably well, right? Unbelievably well. So, because it had such a surplus, Governor Newsom decided to be, large, to be, taxpayer friendly. Now, you'd think maybe that involves tax cutting. No. You never want to cut taxes. So what they did was they decided to invest, I put that in quote marks, invest some of the surplus, $18.1 billion, into inflation relief. In other words, they sent $1,000 checks to millions of residents, to offset the high energy costs and the high other costs and all of that. They sent everybody a $1,000 check. I, by that point, was no longer a California resident. I did not get the $1,000 check. I don't know why they didn't count me still, but they didn't. I guess it's because I refused to pay them taxes. Anyway, they did that, right? So that was $18.1 billion. Then they sent another $11.5 billion to eligible vehicle owners. This was a $400 check per car. So if you had 5 cars, you got $2,000 for the government, just for the hell of it. And, they spent the rest of it as well. They put some in the rainy day fund. We'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, just 2 years later, in February 2024, the legislative analysis announced that the state faced an unprecedented $73 billion, almost the same number, 98, now 73, shortfall. Spending was higher than income from taxation by $73 billion. It turns out that Newsom's staff, working in the budget office, are not very good at predicting the economy. Who would have thunk? And not very good at predicting the stock market. Who would have thunk even more? And they, didn't figure out the stock market decline in 2022. Was that 2022 when the stock market went down? I think so. Now, California relies heavily, around 66% of total tax revenue is personal income and capital gains taxes. And it's heavily skewed towards the richest, wealthiest Californians. That is, in 2019, this is just sample numbers, the top 1% of income earners in California, that's 135,000 households, paid about 45% of the state income tax. If you shrink that even more to 0.05%, that is half of 0.1%, 1/20th of a percent, 1/20th of 1%. That's 8,200 households in California. 8,200 households. These are people who make more than $5 million annually. They paid almost 20% of all state income taxes. I mean, indeed, California might have the most progressive tax system in the world. A lot of that, by the way, is capital gains. A lot of these people are in tech. A lot of them have stock options and stocks, and a lot of their income is capital gains. Right? And so whatever the stock market does in any given year will determine the revenue the state of California brings in, particularly as it applies to tech companies, particularly as it applies to tech companies based in Silicon Valley. That will determine how the state does. I mean, the state has sales tax, but sales tax revenue has gone down dramatically. It used to be, in the 1950s, 60% of California revenue came in from sales tax. Today, it's something like 18, 17, 18%. Corporate personal taxes are the bulk, corporate taxes a little bit more, and then all kinds of other stuff, a sliver. Basically, personal taxes are going to determine, and corporate taxes have not changed over the years, the percentage in the total pie of revenue for the state have not changed that much. So imagine what happens if 8,200 households move from California. California can lose 20% of its tax base. Of the 135,000 households, how many of those are going to move, particularly if, as seems likely down the road, California increases income taxes even further? What happens to the tax base when the wealthy, the successful leave? Now, a lot left during COVID. A lot of them are coming back to California post-COVID. Home prices in Austin are tanking because people are leaving, and fewer people are coming, and supply's caught up with demand. And prices are actually going up in parts of California because people are coming back to California. But if taxes go up again, that is going to reverse. So what is going to happen? And you can see this already to some extent happening. Tech workers with work from home don't have to be in California. Hollywood, in Hollywood, which is again a big earner, employment fell by 26% industry-wide between August 2022 and December 23. And median TV writer producer make 25% less per week, adjusted for inflation, than they did a decade ago. Revenue growth for the entertainment industry overall has declined by 50%. Between 2021 and 2022, box office revenue specifically down 22% since 2019. So California today relies more and more on a few households in primarily the Bay Area. And they plan to suck these people dry. So there's a law now that will eliminate the wage cap for the state's payroll tax, raising potential tax burden for top bracket earners to 14.4%. So from, they passed a few years ago, California passed a millionaire's tax, which raised the top marginal income tax rate to 13.3, which is the highest in the country. And now, because they've added this payroll tax on top of that, it's now going up to 14.4. So you're paying a state income tax where the highest rate is 14.4. That's on top of the, basically 40+% that you pay the federal government. So you're paying, let's say, 42% for the federal government, plus 14, that's 56%, 57%. That's Sweden level. That's as high as any country in Europe. In San Francisco, there is a overpaid CEO tax, which imposes an additional tax on companies whose top executives earns 100 times more than the median employee. Why have a headquarters in San Francisco? So what legislatures have done this year, if they've gone the route that you'd expect them to go, accounting gimmicks. They've cut some things, but not much. They've also kept, the expansion of free health care and in-home supportive services to low-income illegal immigrants. They've kept high-speed rail, which is just a money pit. And, of course, the homeless services, which has been so effective in California, still getting multi-billion dollars for that. But most of the cuts, what we would call gimmicky one-time spending deferrals, or transferring about half the state's rainy day reserve fund to its general fund, which is required Newsom to call for a budgetary emergency. So the rainy day fund has been depleted because it rained because the stock market didn't go up. Yes, California is moving towards socialized medicine, independent of what the federal government does. That's California for you. It's a crazy state. Now, I'm getting a lot of this from, as I said, piratewires.com. They have great info. They're doing some really good journalism. The best journalism in California, I think, right now is coming from them. Again, don't agree with everything they do, but they're good, and they're a nice alternative source of media. California legislature is trying to push through a wealth tax that would levy some annual tax on individuals worth over $50 million. They need to change the state's constitution in order to make that okay, right? They have to, again, and when you leave California, one of the things they want to do is force you to continue paying taxes to California. This is why leaving early is good, because if you leave after this law goes by, if it ever gets funded, if it ever gets passed, you're stuck with paying taxes to California. Anyway, it just goes on and on and on. And of course, we're talking about homeless crisis with no end. We're talking about shoplifting. Really is at absurd levels in certain parts of California. We're talking about certain areas where crime is actually up in spite of nationwide trends where crime is down, even violent crime is up in some parts, particularly in the San Francisco Bay Area subway. Crime is up 13%, in spite of the fact that, again, national trends of crime is down. And if people leave, what happens if people leave? Well, if they leave, revenue goes down even more. Taxes will have to go up even more. If people leave, then governments start cutting police. Crime will go up. More people want to leave. Taxes will go up. More people want to leave. I mean, I don't think San Francisco is yet in what's called the doom loop. We've talked about doom loops before, but it could certainly get there. All right, let's do this. Let's do a review of Scent of a Woman, and then we're going to take your questions. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you for all the support. You guys have really stepped up, particularly, as I mentioned, Wes and Jonathan Honing. Thank you for the sticker. And we got a bunch of $100 questions. We've got one $200. Let me just say, Eric, thank you for the sticker. Pickaxing on Europa is a sticker. Thank you to all you guys. And of course, O000NX. Thank you for getting it all started with a $100 basically sticker. We're still, though, $150 short, so there's still room for you to help us get to where we need to be. There's still 112 people watching that have not not supported the show in any kind of way. All right. All right, so Scent of a Woman. Scent of a Woman is a movie made in 1992. It stars Al Pacino. I think, did Al Pacino win an Oscar for this? I think Al Pacino might have won an Oscar for this. He is really good in it. So it's Al Pacino's always good, but he's particularly, I think, good in this movie. Let me see see if I can get. Where's a good, just succinct IMDb? Anyway, Al Pacino plays a. It's directed by Martin Brest. You can look him up and see what other movies Martin Brest has directed. And it side by side to Al Pacino, it stars Chris O'Donnell. Basically, this movie, let me just say, first of all, this is an adult movie in a sense that it deals with real issues, it deals with values, it deals with characters that are having to face real choices and make adult decisions about life. I don't agree with kind of all the philosophical messages that the movie has, but it's like you watch this movie and you're like, all right, they're treating me like a grown-up, like an adult. There's actually discussion. They're actually talking. There's a setup where some values are at stake. There's life is at stake. That's always important. And again, it's not a stupid, dumb action movie. It's not filled with gratuitous violence or gratuitous anything, really. It's just, a drama. It doesn't really have a plot. But it's really just about characters. It's about two characters. It's about Al Pacino plays a army vet who's a colonel who has had looks like a very successful military career, but was involved in an accident. I won't say more than that. And that accident caused him to lose his sight. So he is blind. Chris O'Donnell is a student, young, whole life in front of him, who comes from a kind of a working class family, who is attending a prep school under scholarship and is surrounded by rich, spoiled brats. And, his character witnesses a prank that some of these rich, spoiled brats, a prank that they play on the headmaster. And now the issue is, will he tell on them? Will he tell on them? And the movie is trying to make the argument that integrity means he won't. Now, I'm not sure that is the case. I'm not sure they're worth not telling on. I'm not sure the code of values here is a rational code of values. But that doesn't matter. What matters is he has a real choice to make as a young adult, as a teenager. This is a choice that you can see would be difficult for him, socially, in terms of his own value system. But on top of that, the principle threatens him that if he does not spill the beans, he will not give him a recommendation to Harvard. Otherwise, he's the guy he's going to recommend for Harvard. He's the scholarship kid who's going to get to go to Harvard. So what does he do? Now, in the meantime, he is babysitting this vet, and this vet has decided he wants to kill himself. He's going to go to New York, have an amazing weekend of great meals, drinking, and sex, and then shoot himself. And the drama hinges on this choice for him to kill himself. He's depressed. He feels guilty. He's given up on life. And this is good. He has no purpose. He sees no purpose in his life. And he sees no art, even though his personality is very outgoing. He can be charming. He's very charismatic. Very charismatic. You can tell why this guy made it to colonel. He might have made a lot of mistakes when he was young, but he's very charismatic. But he's given up on life. And the movie really shows what happens when you have no purpose. Now, so a lot of it is very well done, very well set up, brilliantly acted. I'd say there are two flaws here, but they come at the ideas level. At the level of a movie, I think the movie works and is enjoyable and interesting. The flaw is one that the colonel never really finds a purpose. The purpose he finds at the end, I don't think I'm giving up too much, he doesn't kill himself in the end, is just not a real purpose. It's not the kind of purpose that would keep you alive. And it skirts that. It doesn't really deal with what really a human being's need in terms of purpose. He doesn't find something that he really loves other than life itself. But that's not purpose enough. He's given up on life because he has no purpose. So it's a little weak on that, but you know, he makes the choice to live. And the choice to live is crucial. And once he makes the choice to live, it's interesting how his persona changes, his attitude towards the world changes, and his ability to shape his own life changes, that his ability to impact the world out there changes. So it just shows the power of choosing life and dedicating yourself to it. As I said, the kid has to make this choice about squealing or not squealing. And again, this is tied into integrity. The final scene is good. The way the other kids respond is basically good. I mean, if you have an asshole who has done something bad, and now you're supposed to do the honorable thing and not squeal on him, but the price of not squealing on him is not going to Harvard, I think you should squeal, right? I mean, there's no integrity here when you're talking about somebody who's not a good person. And you're not lying, you're telling actually the truth. So I don't completely buy into the values as represented by the movie. But it's strong and it's powerful and it does a good job at it. So I recommend the movie. It's a good movie, well acted, well directed, well made to the extent that I can tell, and has good values presented in it, or at least causes you to think. And this is a huge value a movie can do. Causes you to think about what the values should be. Let's put it this way. Whether you agree with the values or not is less relevant to the fact that the movie is internally consistent. That is, they play out the values as they've accepted them in the movie, which is the only thing you can accept of it's what you should expect from a work of art. You don't expect a work of art to line up with your values perfectly. That would be, it's just not going to happen. What you expect of a work of art is to reproduce the values of the director effectively, of the writer effectively, so that and you can get pleasure from seeing that concretized. His values, not yours. You'll find some in it, but part of what I enjoy about this is there's clarity of values in Scent of a Woman. And clarity of values is a value in and of itself. All right, that is my review of the movie. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Thank you for whoever sponsored this movie. I think it's $500 to sponsor a movie review. If you have questions related to the movie, please don't hesitate to ask. Let me just go through a few of the supporters by sticker. Stephen Harper, thank you. Dewisky, thank you. Oyvind, thank you. John, thank you. And let's see. I'm talking about the movie. What movie was I talking about? Scent of a Woman. I was talking about Scent of a Woman. I would recommend it. It's definitely enjoyable. All right, let us now turn to the super chat. Thank you for all the super chatters. We're very close to the goal. So if somebody wants to come in with maybe a few $20 questions, we'll make the goal, and that'll be terrific. Okay, let's start with, Michael just did that. No, let's start with David. $200. Thank you, David. Have you seen 1947 movie Gentleman's Agreement with Gregory Peck? He's a journalist exposing anti-Semitism by posing as a Jew for 8 weeks. Do you support a person changing his last name in order to get a job in the face of rampant anti-Semitism, as in the 1940s? I think if the circumstances are under certain circumstances, sure, right? You know, ideally, you would never have to do that, because it means that you're going to have to be in this job, you know, and know you're lying to them, and know that they would hate you if they knew your real name, and know that you're among a bunch of anti-Semites, and just live with it. I have seen the movie. I saw it a long time ago. If I remember, it's very powerful and quite good. If I could, I would move cities. I would move to a place where the anti-Semitism wasn't like that. I would change jobs to find an employer where this was not an issue. I would do a lot to avoid changing my name in order to get a job. Right? Not that the name is that important. It's that who you're working with is important. But it is an amazing movie in the sense that it revealed, as of 1947, the existence of anti-Semitism in the United States. I mean, there was a huge amount of anti-Semitism in admissions to places like Harvard and to the Ivy League schools. There was anti-Semitism on Wall Street. There was anti-Semitism on Wall Street all the way through the 1980s. Part of, I guess, the argument about why Milken and Drexel, Burnham Lambert, was treated as badly as they were is because they were an investment banks run by Jews, where most of the investment banks at the time were run by kind of WASPs. So anti-Semitism has been a real problem in America. You know, there were country clubs that wouldn't accept Jews. There was real anti-Semitism in America until, I think, certainly through the 60s. And I think things have gotten better, and now things have gotten a lot worse, right? Things have gotten a lot worse. But under the surface, I think anti-Semitism has always been there, sadly. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Yeah, I think I answered that question. David, if you want to follow up, you can use the chat for that. Let's see. Andrew has a $50 question. I once read a New York Times article with tons of socialistic implications, and a woman I knew read the same article but missed all the implied context, arguing statism. Why would they push ideology? In innocence, blindness to the motives and underlying ideas. That's right. I think a lot of people don't recognize the ideas. They can't imagine what would ever drive anybody to hold an ideology and to try to fight for an ideology. And I think the more reality-oriented the people, that's why businessmen in particular, the more they just don't understand the mind of intellectuals. They don't understand the role of intellectuals. And because our educational system is so crappy, they don't understand the role of ideas in history. They don't understand how intellectuals have shaped and continue to shape the world around them. They have no idea about this. They've never learned it. They've never studied it. They've never thought about it. So they become suckers. They become susceptible to it. So, so what you got was just the concretes within the article, but those concretes are all shaped by statism. And since she couldn't see the shaping, she just accepted the concretes as is. So huge consequences to living in a culture that doesn't understand the role of ideas, the role of the intellectual in shaping itself. And I think American culture has always been like that. That American culture has been in some way non-intellectual, almost anti-intellectual. And that has saved it in one way because it doesn't take the intellectuals too seriously. But it's also made it vulnerable to those intellectuals. So that the businessman and many people in the culture didn't see what was driving them, where they were heading, where they were going, didn't see how bad things were going to get, how bad things the intellectuals were pushing us towards. What a bad fate. All right, whoops. All right, Andrew has another question. A strain of tradcons don't even want the sex part of marriage. Sex is shameful, outside procreation. They're very Catholic that way. It's like their purpose of having a wife is not to have a wife, but a mother to their children. Well, and a cook, and a caretaker, and all of that, right? But that's, yeah, I really do believe that, and I think I'm going to wildly speculate, crazily speculate, based on my very limited experience. I would guess that these tradcon husbands cheat on their wives more than secular husbands do. I would bet that generally people with conservative views about sex go to strip clubs and brothels more than do people who have a more relaxed view of sex. That is my experience. And my one anecdote about that, I mean, I have many anecdotes, but one that I've used in the past is, where are there more strip clubs? And where are they more fancy? Where are they more decked out? Where are they more impressive? In the South, Southeast, or in the West? I mean, it's not even close. Not even close. Red states have better, fancier, and more strip clubs than do blue states. Ever been in a Dallas strip club? I mean, those things are something. No, not Portland, Oregon. No, not if you've been to Atlanta, or you've been to Dallas, or New Orleans, or Florida. Right. I checked them out. Thomas asked, "How do I know?" I've checked them out. I believe in doing research. I believe in first-hand experiences. Anyway, just some observations about tradcon husbands. I just got done reading a novel called Rainbow Six about far-left government teaming up with health industry to spread Ebola. If someone like Bill Ayers became a CEO and Julian Assange came to power, I believe this could happen. Yeah, I believe that. Let's make sure Julian Assange does not become president or Bill Ayers does not become a CEO. I think that the marketplace takes care of mostly. But yes. Yeah. People are making fun of my research. I mean, what you don't do research? You got to research these things. You got to have an opinion and then go out and do research. Anyway. One of these days, when I finish telling you all my hitchhiking stories, I can tell you strip club stories. I'm kidding. Or not, I don't know. It depends on the super chat. Do you think, Jennifer asked, do you think young children should be shielded, if possible, from some disturbing adult stuff? My mom used to take me to drive-ins to see movies. I don't think I should have been watching at 8 years old. Yeah, I definitely think so. I definitely think there are aspects of life that, you should be shielded from. you should be shielded from. You see, David, you're missing the plot, right? David says, I don't imagine my wife would approve of my new research project. The secret to that is to include your wife in the research. Anyway, yeah, no, I mean, there's certain themes that are not appropriate, that kids don't have the context to understand or to relate to or to actually, integrate. Scary, unintelligible. I mean, the worst is the violence. I mean, the violence in modern movies is just horrific. This is, I think, one of the real dangers of video games, more than anything else, is the cartoony, the kind of violence that happens there, which is realistic. It's not cartoonish like Bugs Bunny violence. It's realistic. So it's absolutely, kids should be shielded from that. I worry much more about violence and sex, for example. I mean, at least sex in mainstream movies. I mean, what are mainstream movies showing sex? Why is that seems to be the least disturbing thing for kids to get? Whereas, I mean, I'm not talking about porn. I'm talking about mainstream movie kind of sex. And that doesn't seem that disturbing to me, but violence seems, can be very disturbing to children, and they should be shielded. But more than violence, just adult themes. There's definitely a role for children movies and adult movies, and there should be a separation. Oh, I see I've created a whole stream on the chat about the benefits of strip clubs versus video games. Bradley, and values, and values. Where did it start? Where did the question start, Bradley? Oh, there it is. Okay, it starts here. Democracy creates a threat-based psychology. Regular people are forced into a zero-sum context and neutral diversity of talents, natural diversity of talents and values that would otherwise enhance each other's lives through trade. Instead of that, they get contorted into a source of suspicion, confusion, and hostility. Focusing on the toxicity of this system is better than just the philosophy alone. I agree completely, Bradley, and this is a point Ayn Rand hammers over and over and over again. This is the problem with a mixed economy. I think that's a better way to categorize it rather than using democracy, which is this ambiguity, but it's giving people the right to vote over how to use my stuff, how much of it to take, who to distribute it to. It creates what Ayn Rand called gang warfare. Because you guys are going to vote to take my stuff or regulate my stuff or control my stuff. So I need to protect myself. So in order to protect myself, I'm going to create another gang, a lobby, an interest group, call it a pressure group, in order to protect myself and then try to take your stuff. And you're absolutely right. I think ultimately, this is the failure of the mixed economy. Ultimately, it's why we have reached a stage in the mixed economy where the centrists who want us to continue playing this game are completely losing, and why the far left and the far right are gaining, because they figured out this game. They figured out the game, and they figured out zero sum, and they figured out it's all or nothing, and they're all in. Why play at this little stuff? Let's just take it all. And this is exactly why our political system is collapsing. It's collapsing because the mixed economy is not a stable equilibrium. It is not a stable equilibrium because it sets up gangs fighting each other. In that sense, we're much closer to narco-capitalism, so-called, than to capitalism. In anarchy, it's gang warfare. And what we have today in the political system of the United States is gang warfare. We have anarchy. There are no rules. There are no principles. There are no rights. It's my gang versus your gang. And it's how many votes we get and who we can convince and how much money we can raise and how much pressure we can put here versus there. And what will happen to anarchy inevitably, and what happens to the mixed economy inevitably, is one gang will grow so big, and if it gets a charismatic leader, will grow so big as to dominate and turn it into authoritarianism. That's what happens to anarchy, and that's what happens to the mixed economy, which is a form of anarchy more than it is a form of capitalism. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It is the source of suspicion, confusion, and hostility. And as a consequence, it's a hostility towards the other, and that leads to tribalism, which is what we have right now, my tribe versus your tribe, because it's a zero-sum world. And if my tribe doesn't win, then you get to take us over. And that is the mixed economy or the form of democracy we have in the world today. Yeah, great observation, Bradley. Thomas, all the bad, what's that, bureaucrat things you say about California would seem to eliminate Newsom as a Democratic presidential candidate. All the Republicans have to say is point to the condition of California and say, you want that. I mean, this is the problem, right? You want that means what? Means the high taxes and high regulations, or does it mean the pretty sweet lifestyle that most Californians or most middle class and up Californians live in? Newsom will point to high tech, and he'll point to Hollywood, and he'll point to successful cities, and he'll point to wealthy people, and he'll point to all of that, and huge welfare programs, And that's what the left wants. He'll also say, I've got the most progressive tax system in the country. I want to bring that to the federal government. And the left will admire that. Now, where they can win a general election on that, I just don't know. I mean, he won in California. Californians voted for it. I mean, it's not like California is a dictatorship. Californians keep voting for Newsom, so why wouldn't non-Californians vote for him? Will it sell in Middle America? No, but he has no chance of getting Middle America. Can he get, the upper Midwest, which has leftist tendencies sometimes? Can he even get, Texas of his own and Nevada? Maybe. Hard to tell. If he plays how he spins. Remember, we're not talking about truth here. We're talking about spin, how he spins his presentation. People often vote for a candidate because they like him or don't like him. Has nothing to do with track record. Newsom is good looking. He's a good speaker. He's charismatic. He's got a sense of humor. He can pretend to be a man of the people. I don't know how elections work. I don't know how political popularity works. Could I ever have predicted that Trump would be the most popular politician in America today? I couldn't have predicted it. So I don't know. Jeremy, glad to see you're still going, Yaron. Yeah, I'm still going. Unfortunately, I've been deplatformed and nuked from Twitter for referencing supporters of RU irredentism expansion as cockroaches. Used to share sections of the show to bring people in. Hopefully you can share them on other platforms. Generally, probably don't call people cockroaches. Probably not a good strategy. if you want to appease the gods of Twitter, even with Elon Musk there. They don't like it when you call people cockroaches, I guess. Yep. Michael says, nowadays exposing evil is considered more evil than those who actually do the evil. I think sometimes that's true. I think sometimes that's true. I wouldn't make a generalization out of that. All right, we've got a bunch of more super chats. We're $26 short of having the whole thing wrapped up, of reaching our goal and really getting set for the first week in great shape. But let's just jump in with the 10, 5, whatever. We can do stickers and we can get there pretty easily, I think. All right, Ryan says, send stickers, support the show. I'll second that. Michael says, your reason can move mountains and your doubt can create them. Yes, I think that's right. I think that's good. Scott says, you've said you know of perfect people. Are you at liberty to identify any examples? No, I'm not at liberty to identify any examples. But you have to understand what perfect means. Perfect means rational. So do I know people who are rational? Rational people living by reason. It doesn't mean they're right all the time. It doesn't mean they know everything. It just means they deal with the world in a rational way. It doesn't even mean that they don't make mistakes, but that they deal with those mistakes rationally and then they, fix them and correct them. So perfection in this case means moral perfection. And moral perfection doesn't mean I'm perfect, I can do no wrong. Moral perfection means you strive constantly to be rational, always rational. Facts. That's what moral perfection means. And to that extent, yeah, I think there are people out there. Does that mean they never, ever, ever don't mess up? I'm sure they do, but then they deal with that in an appropriate, rational way. John says, what proof do you have that people in the Middle Ages thought the world was flat? Peikoff is not a historian of ideas, nor was Ayn Rand. No, it doesn't make them wrong. I don't have any proof right now. It's what I learned when I was in school, I guess. Maybe it's wrong. I don't know. But when I was in school, they taught us that that in the Middle Ages or in the Dark Ages, depends how you define the Middle Ages, up to a certain point, they thought that the Earth was flat. And given the fact that there are people today who think that doesn't seem unreasonable to me that some people would believe that the Earth was flat a long, long time ago. Certainly in pre-science Greece, or pre-science world, they thought the Earth was flat, or some people did. The Greeks had an understanding of the Earth being rounded. I don't think in Galileo's time they thought the world was flat, but Galileo's already in the Renaissance, already towards the end of the Renaissance. So Galileo is well into the period of the rediscovery of the mind. I'm reading the reopening of the human mind, and yeah, he doesn't raise the Earth being flat as one of the issues on which the Dark Ages was wrong on. But that doesn't mean anything. I think there were certain maps drawn, there were images drawn of it being flat, and again, when I studied history in my history classes in school a very long time ago, they taught that people thought the Earth was flat. You don't have to be a historian of ideas yourself to be an expert on the history of ideas. Indeed, most historians of ideas are imbeciles when it comes to the history of ideas because they don't understand the way ideas work in a culture. They don't understand how ideas work. They don't understand the key philosophical issues at stake. They don't necessarily understand who are the important ones and who are not. And a genius like Ayn Rand, who has this vast understanding and of history and of philosophy. I mean, she might be mistaken on a particular concrete, like in the Middle Ages they thought X, but she's probably right in terms of the general trends, or she's most certainly right on the general trends and the general phenomena that are going on. And by the way, there's good, I've got a good book on the Dark Ages. It's back here somewhere. And I'm sure you'll object to it. A world lit only by, God, it's somewhere here. Yeah. If you want a good book on the Dark Ages, I recommend this by William Manchester, A World Lit Only by Fire, The Medieval Mind and the Renaissance. And it really shows kind of what medievalism was and how the Renaissance, it just was a complete break, complete shift, and an awakening. So I know there are a lot of apologists right now. There are a lot of people right now who are trying to make out that the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages were not that dark and not that bad. And certainly we've discovered that in the Middle Ages there were more people who were questioning the authority of the church and more people doing things. But one of the things that struck me when I read, I can't remember which one of the books, maybe it's The Closing of the Western Mind, that there were no astronomical observations for 1,000 years. None. No new in the West. That's pretty dark. When science really starts with astronomical observations, that plays such a huge role in both Greek science and in Renaissance onward science, from Copernicus on. To this day, how much brain power is dedicated to trying to understand the stars and black holes and all of that stuff, even though has relatively little applications in this, but we're as a species, there have always been people among us who've been fascinated by them. So for 1,000 years, no astronomical observations. That's pretty amazing, and that tells you something about those 1,000 years. Andrew, I guess Michael Knowles' 1220 wish was too mild for Candace. She wants to take the time machine back further. Are these people serious or being outrageous for views? Sadly, I think it's both. I think she's serious. I think she's just stupid. I think she's mostly not smart. I never thought she was. And yeah, she's not smart. Maribin says, thank you for helping me make my boyfriend laugh. Appreciate you. I appreciate that. Always happy to make people laugh or helping you make people laugh. Lucinda says, the Atlas Shrugged quote about young Dagny, I like, quote, she hung around the tracks and the roundhouses like a humble student, but the humility had a touch of future pride, a pride to be earned. Yeah. And some people claim Ayn Rand was not a good writer. And that is so good. That is so good. And the more you understand Ayn Rand's philosophy, the more you understand what that means. How profound that statement is. Apollo Zeus, what do you think of out of context when it comes to previous messages made online? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, Apollo, don't know what you're talking about. Apollo, what is the relationship between love and sex? Well, hopefully an intimate one. Sex is a part of romantic love. Again, we're talking about romantic love, I assume, here, because love is broader than that. You can have a love of a mother for a child where sex is obviously not involved. You can have a love between two friends. I think Rourke loves Wynand in The Fountainhead, but it's not sexual. So you can have love without sex. And you can also have sex without love. But the most profound manifestation of both is sex with somebody you love. So romantic love, which includes sex, is the most profound and the best and the most meaningful sex you can have. And it's the most profound and meaningful relationship you can have. I think that's right. And love and sex are both good. Lucinda says, I love, there you go, love again. I love how exalted the ending to Ayn Rand's novels are. We the Living has my favorite ending. I think the contrast actually heightens the exaltation. I reread the ending whenever I watch the movie. Yeah, yes, I mean, the ending is powerful and heart-wrenching but yes, I mean, Ayn Rand knows how to write. And she knows how to write an ending. But she knows how to write, as the previous passage that Lucinda quoted illustrates. Lucinda says, tell us a strip club story or two you're on for scientific research reasons, of course. I don't know. I think I probably shouldn't. Yeah, I probably shouldn't, particularly given that the good stories, other people are involved who, yeah, some of you might know. So one day, maybe when I'm much older. But no, I'm not going to. I will tell you this. I'll tell you a hitchhiking story. So, you know, a lot of the hitchhiking, when I hitchhiked across the South, a lot of people who picked me up were Christians. And one of the things that struck me, I was just 18 years old. What did I know in life? But so this one guy picked me up, and he said, "Look, I want to stop here and get a drink, and then we'll keep going." And I said, "Sure." So we stop at a restaurant with a bar. I eat some stuff. I'm sitting around, and he starts hitting on this woman at the bar, and he says, "Wait here. I'm going to take a ride with her." And he takes her for a ride, and then he comes back, and then we continue, and he starts, and he constantly complains about how this woman hit on him, and she wanted to have sex, all kinds of stuff. And here's a guy's completely confused about and he's married, and he every second sentence is Jesus this, Jesus that, religion this, religion that, Bible this, Bible that. And it was just it was one of the weirdest things ever to see this guy. And I had a number of experiences like that where the Christians were the most confused. The Christians were they had the hardest time with this. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's an innocent strip club story. No, can't come up with anyone. Let's see. A friend of Aristotle. It's nice to catch one of your live shows from start to finish. Have a good 4th. You too, everybody. Have a great 4th. Paulo Zeus says, how is Harry? I admire him a lot. Harry Binswanger is doing fine. Just saw him at Ocon. I think everybody had a good time. Kim says, is being mediocre a sign of low self-esteem? No. Some people are mediocre at certain things. I'm a mediocre what? I'm a mediocre at a lot of things, sports, whatever. Does that mean I've got to? No. Mediocre just means you're middle of the pack by some measure of something that you do. And that has nothing to do with low self-esteem. It could be just a fact of reality. You might even have mediocre intelligence. I mean, we're not all, part of intelligence is innate, you're born with. And somebody has to be in the middle. But you can still have lots of self-esteem. Because even at a mediocre, call it level of intelligence, you can still deal with the world, you can still make a living, you can still do stuff, the world is still yours. You don't have to be a genius for that. So it's what you do with it, with whatever skills, talents, abilities you have. And then which ones you develop and how you develop them. which what matters. It's character that matters. Frank says for self-esteem. Frank says flat earthers believe in flat and round, like a CD disc. Do they think anybody's fallen off? And if they fell off, where did they fall? And is there gravity? Is that why they fall off? Or do they just walk into space? Ooh, now I'm going in the rabbit hole. Maybe I should read up about flat earthers. I wonder who came up with it originally. Who came up with the stupidest idea in human history in terms of, the stupidest idea of the 21st century. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. But if I don't, have a fantastic 4th of July. Have a great weekend. It's a holiday that should definitely be enjoyed, celebrated. I hope you barbecue or whatever it is that you do on the 4th of July. I'm going to a restaurant. But just have a great time. Celebrate that we still live in a good country with flaws, significant ones, but it's basically a good country. And let's celebrate its continued goodness and work to make it even better in the future. See you all tomorrow or Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye.